Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the BIEA STEM University Challenge 2020. I'm Denise Davis-Borum, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for BIEA. I'd like to welcome you all to the event. We've got some great speakers lined up today, and obviously the thing that a lot of people will be waiting for is the announcement of the winners. Just to go through a couple of housekeeping bits, if you can keep your microphones muted, unless obviously you want to say something. We will be recording the webinar. If you've got any questions, can you pop them into the chat box? And then when we do the question and answer session, I'll ask you to unmute and to give your question. And if you could just tweet about us, we're at BIEA Education as the afternoon goes along, that would be great. So thank you, welcome. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker of the afternoon, Mhairi McCann. Mhairi is the founder and CEO of Youth STEM 2030, and she's going to tell us all about it.
So, hi everyone, my name's Mhairi. Thanks so much for having me here today. I've just turned the captions on there, but I will apologise in advance. I'm Scottish and they do terrible with Scottish accents, so it might give you a laugh during my presentation. But I'm really excited to be speaking today about how you can take your projects that you've all done to the next level with Youth STEM 2030, which is the organisation that I've founded and I'm the CEO of. So I thought it would be helpful to give a bit of background as to how it started, because my story started with a project much like what you've all just done. I spent my summer holiday investigating the impact that pesticides have on a particular type of marine animal, and that was really where I started out. So I wanted to share that because obviously this is now the situation that you're all in where you've done these projects. So I then took the project to a whole number of science competitions and science fairs, and then got involved a lot in volunteering and in things like influencing policy and getting young people involved in STEM. So it went a lot further than just the project. And through being involved in all those things, it then gave me two beliefs. The first was that science, technology, engineering and maths, or STEM, can solve some of the world's biggest challenges. There's a lot of issues in the world right now, whether it's the climate crisis, inequalities, poverty, lack of education, the pandemic. There's so many of them, but STEM can be key to solving those. But also that as young people, it doesn't matter how far on your career you are, as young people, we can make a difference. So, as you're all university students, that doesn't mean that you need to wait until you graduate or have 20 years of experience. We can make a difference right now. So that led me eventually along a very windy path, I will say, but eventually to now having founded Youth STEM 2030, where it's our mission to empower youth to use science, technology, engineering and maths to change the world. And the reason for that is because, as I just said, we believe that with the right platforms, the right support and the right opportunities, young people can do exactly that. So what do we do? Our work is basically at the intersection of youth, the SDGs and STEM. So within this diagram, we're right there in the middle. And that's where all of our work lies. And the SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, outline some of those big challenges that we have in the world, but primarily a blueprint for a better future. And that is something that we really need to work towards by 2030. And obviously amongst your projects, you've been tackling some of these big challenges, and therefore you're already kind of halfway there with that, I think. So Youth STEM Matters is our flagship project. It's a platform for youth to share their research, ideas and innovations for maximum impact. And this is what the project that we do that I think would be of most interest to you all, having just completed a project. So it's a scientific journal that's totally for youth and by youth. So it's totally led by young people from around the world. And it's for young people to be able to share, as I said, those research ideas and innovations. And it's not just about publishing articles. We want to work together with our authors to make sure that each article is the best it can be. And sometimes people ask me, well, why do you want it to be the best? Why can it not just be 80% good enough? But the reality is, if we don't make these solutions that you're all coming up with the best they can be, then we're not going to make the biggest impact that we can on the world. So there's 3 different types of article style that we accept. Those are original research, which is new, never done before, experimentation, investigation, discovery, design, manufacture, invention. And that's where I think that most of your projects probably fit the best. There's also review articles, though, which some of them may well do as well, which is a summary of the current understanding of the specific topic. And then finally, there's scientific communication, and those are more conversational. So you might perhaps want to write about your experience of participating in this competition, and therefore that would be the best category for that. But often there's a kind of misconception about what it involves, because as I said at the beginning, my journey started with a project, but actually went much further than that. And when it comes to publishing a piece of work that you've done, the actual work itself is only a small part of the story. So you've done that kind of green section towards the top, that primary research, you've done the work. You might have done some of the communication of it, perhaps, when you were taking part in the competition. But actually that process of submission through to publication is actually quite a lengthy one, and one that a lot of iteration happens on, and actually a lot of building on the work that you've done happens to be able to communicate that effectively. And here's an example of an article that has been published. So this is Leela, she's 16 and is from Hawaii. And she did a project that investigated, basically looked and found that there was anti-cancerous properties in compounds that are found in coral. And that was work that she did fairly independently. She did work at the local university's lab. But even if you've not had access to a lab, but you know, with the lockdown, most people haven't, that doesn't mean that your project's not valuable or valid. Actually, some of the best projects that I've ever seen have come from work that people have done, you know, at a desk in their local park or back garden, without very much equipment. And by the end, it looks something like this, but I will emphasize that it didn't look anything like that when it was submitted. And as I said, a lot of iteration and refining happens within that peer review process that then makes this article hopefully a very impactful piece that then will go on to make a difference and add to that scientific understanding that we have in that area. And as I said before, Youth STEM Matters is totally run by young people. So we've got 52 incredible volunteers from over 20 countries globally. And they put a lot of time into making sure that that aim of every article being the best it can be is achieved. So I don't want to do a presentation without acknowledging them. And so, you know, it's really by young people, for young people. And that means that then the feedback that you would then receive in your article is going to be written by another young person who therefore knows what it's like to have put in a lot of work into a project, because we know that you have, and therefore is going to make sure that it's constructive and will only make your project better. And here's the rest of them. So as I said, they do come from all over the world in a whole variety of roles, from reviewers to copy editors. We've even got people who don't have science as their main interest and actually are artists within the team to make those lovely like graphical abstracts like you saw with Leela's article there. So they really are an amazing group of young people. And so that's like something that, again, you would all be able to get involved in the next time that we are looking for people. But that's pretty much a kind of quick overview of what we do, and that's our contact details on the screen there. So do feel free to reach out if we can help you to share your project. If you're looking for advice about how to take your project further. And we would really like to hear from you as authors who want to get their project published, because as I said, that platform's there for you, and we want to help you to make your project the absolute best that they can be. So thanks so much for having me here today. And of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions when we have the Q&A a bit later on.
Thank you very much, Mhairi. And I hope that lots of our participants today will want to join, and we'll certainly share those contact details with you afterwards. Moving on now to our next speaker, and before we do, I would just like to say that, well, I'll introduce the speaker. So we have Wendy Brown. She's the Senior Employment Engagement Officer at City University of London. And at BIEA, we have a great relationship with City University. We had 4 of their students as interns with us over this summer. So they worked on this competition and also on our schools competition. I know that 2 have joined today, so I'd like to say hi, Azar and Xavier. They were absolutely great. And Wendy's going to talk to us about the value of work placements for both employers and students. So if I can hand over to you now, Wendy.
Thanks very much, Denise. I'll share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so thanks very much, Denise. Yes, as we were just saying, it was a very fruitful collaboration, and this summer in particular with 4 of our students going out to help the IEA and actually even work on this competition specifically as well. So I just wanted to chat a bit about that partnership. But first I wanted to go into what these sort of placements were. So microplacement is a term we use. Essentially, it is a short-term work experience where students take on projects in the summer months, and it's all about career exploration. So taking on projects that are outside of the traditional degree pathway and seeing all the merits that that brings. We had to adapt, obviously, to the pandemic. So we had all of the placements happen remotely, 66 in total. We did lots of different things to support students in terms of, guidelines for students and employers, hyperlinking to different support services and training in terms of time management and things like that. And we made sure all of the students had, a setup for remote working. And yeah, then the students had lots of great things. So to focus in on the BIEA ones, certainly there was lots of social media and video editing and learning WordPress, I hear, as well. Even being an adjudicator, I believe, for the competition. So lots of really, really good skills being learned. And why we're encouraging students to do this type of thing is because it brings transferable skills. So in the context, especially of today's world, where even if you can't get a placement or a role in something that's immediately relevant to your degree and that's the career you want to take, even taking a placement or project that's outside of that traditional pathway will still develop those transferable skills. So students reported having developed their teamwork skills, communication skills, and also built their confidence and resilience. And I'll go into a bit more detail on those stats just a little bit later. But as well, the benefit of varied experience is that, well, this is from the Institute of Student Employers, their annual report, that 74% of employers do not recruit based on your degree specialism. They recruit based on skills you have to offer. So it's very much about just developing those transferable skills in whatever context you can. And it also helps you stand out, your CV stand out from the crowd. And of course, is very beneficial to employers as well. So in terms of some of the data, so as I said, 66 students placed remotely, but also 22 internationally based placements as well. So I know there are a lot of internationally, students from around the world and based around the world on this meeting. And we were able to facilitate 22 placements across the world and negotiate different working hours to suit sort of the UK-based organisations, make sure there's an overlap, and it actually worked really, really well. So I encourage people to take on placements and projects virtually because there's still a lot of merit to be gained from them. And as I was saying, we measure students' confidence and resilience via a questionnaire, and we found that 97% of the students felt more open-minded about their careers before and then after placement. And they felt more prepared for a range of placement graduate level recruitment selection processes, even after, even in the context of the pandemic. So we're really pleased that students got so much out of it. And then that's just some overall stats there that we've helped on with 2,500 students through the program, and at least 40 that we know of have continued to work with their employer. I had also said I'd give you a bit of an overview of the labour market landscape. So in terms of the global perspective, so 94% of the world's workers live in countries with some sort of workplace measure in place and remote working. So of course, the pandemic is very much impacting our ways of work and how we gain that work experience. If we drill down to sort of the UK, we see that vacancies are at 50% of the normal rates, but they are slowly climbing. So this is a positive presentation in that respect, in that there are still opportunities. There is a prediction that there'll be, well, and we know fewer interns and internships and placements, so 40%, with the heaviest impact areas naturally being the arts, retail, hospitality and travel, but much less affected being health, social care, IT and finance. But in terms of the different reports from the Institute of Student Employers, we're finding that employers are discussing recruiting in these quarters and even into next year as well. So this picture is getting hopefully a little better. And certainly if I bring it down to the micro level of my program, I've seen a 72% increase year on year on employers really wanting to offer placements and opportunities and projects to students, particularly because of the pandemic. So I would very much encourage you to look out at your universities for different opportunities, placement programs and opportunities to meet with employers, because they are very much wanting to help and give that work experience. So, and just a few other things you can do to sort of bolster your CV in these times. So exactly things like this competition gives you a range of skills in terms of teamwork and research and development, all of these transferable skills. I've been speaking to lots of employers who are running similar types of competitions, big energy management company, for example, that have actually hired off the back of students who are taking part in their competitions. So it's very much worthwhile to take part as you are doing. And really just using this time to reflect on your skills and where you want to be and where you might be missing some of those skills and seeing how you can develop them. Ability and flexibility, resilience and problem solving, as you can imagine, are really top skills that employers, especially these days, are looking for. In terms of the university context, very much use your careers department. Certainly we are operating virtually, so whether that be virtual panels and fairs and appointments, get your CVs checked and things like that, or looking at the job boards, really use the careers department because they're there to help you. Similarly, there are different employability sessions, mock assessment centers, video interviews that they can help you upskill in. And of course, you can do volunteering. There's even virtual volunteering, for example, with the NHS chat and check-in service and fundraising societies and clubs. Any of that stuff that you're doing online is really valuable to put on your CV as well. You can also attend industry discussions and webinars and events that are in your sector of interest, and they can even go on your CV as well. Use the time to research employers and roles that you're interested in as well. Bolster your LinkedIn profile, and I believe Andy will be talking a bit more about that later on. Maybe see if you can get a mentor or else be a mentor to someone else. This really develops valuable leadership and communication skills. That'll be very useful for your CV as well. There's free online training courses out there if you're learning a language. There's also virtual work experience. So I know, for example, Barclays has a life skills program that it runs, or Pinson Masons. I know these are law examples and finance examples, but there are lots of organizations that do run virtual work experience programs. And virtual internships as well. So Amazon, Bloomberg, IBM and Sky are just a few employers that actually ran virtual internships. So be sure to look on their websites, and you can even, I believe, set an alert on the IBM website that they give you straight to your inbox whenever they're opening up new roles and internships. So yeah, that's how you can keep on track. And then I can share these slides after if anybody is interested, but yeah, there's just some useful resources to begin your look for virtual opportunities, your search for different roles, and yeah, just utilizing your university to its full extent to get that experience, and of course the student services available. So that's it. Thank you very much to everybody for listening to me, for BIEA for having me here, and of course to the 4 microplacement students that really made a big impact this summer.
Thank you very much, Wendy. And yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that we had great experience. We do also run a STEM ambassador program. So if anyone is interested in volunteering with us and learning more about our work and also increasing their own skills, then please do get in touch. And again, we'll share some details about that afterwards as well. I'd now like to go on and introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Andy Pugh. He's the director of iTouch, the business leader. And I think Andy has got quite an engaging presentation for us. So over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Denise. Right, so let me just share my screen. Hopefully it's the right one. Let's find out. Right, it is the right one. Excellent. So listen, thank you for all taking the time out to not only take part in what is a great competition and for a phenomenal cause, but also attend today. And I think the whole process, I've been watching the videos and looking through the documentation and stuff. Some great projects, some great ingenuity that is out there. And guys, you are the future, right? So us oldies will be gone at some point. You'll be taking over. So it warms my heart to see that there's so much ingenuity and innovation that's coming out. So let's sort of just kick off. And what I would, there we go, make sure my presentation is actually working. There we go. Hopefully you can see my slides. And what I'd like to talk about is the next steps. You've got the ideas, you've got the thoughts in your head about where you want to go, but where do we go from that point onwards? So just a little bit about me. So I've been sort of in technology and IT for about 30 years, and in that time, I've sort of moved from being a programmer to product manager, all the way up to commercial roles and leading companies. And I did that for 25 years. And then a couple of years ago, I decided that I've got all this experience and maybe it could be put to some better use. Instead of working for one company, I could work for a number of companies. So I now work with startups, and currently I've got 4 or 5 I directly work with, and these are technology startups from, I've got one in Finland, I've got one in the US, I've got one in Hong Kong, I've got one in Israel. And on top of that, I have my wife's startup, which is a jewelry business. So it keeps me quite busy, but it's given me a really good understanding of how to run small businesses. And okay, some of these companies have like a $15 million Series A funding or whatever, so they're not exactly tiny, but it's given me that sort of broader view. And hopefully I can sort of impart some of those ideas onto you guys. Now, at the time, when I left school, I did my A levels, and I had the option to go to university. I decided to go straight into a job in IT, and it was a tough decision. My parents weren't very happy about it, but for me, it worked out. You can't do that these days. These days, the baseline is a degree, and I saw that when I moved to Hong Kong 20 years ago. The receptionist had a higher qualification. We had one member of the admin team who was an MBA, so the level had been set so much higher. So you don't really have that flexibility. So you've got to really stick it out, get your qualifications, and really get out into the market on doing that. So let me just sort of move on. So, as I mentioned, 20 years ago, I moved out to Hong Kong. I was working for Cable and Wireless, who are now owned by Vodafone. And we had a tremendous few years over there, and we did some great things, and it's an amazing place. And absolutely loved it. But what we didn't love was some of the things that we discovered there when we were there. It's got some amazing places to dive. We took up diving when we were there and certified. But one of the big things that we noticed is that the photos we were taking included a lot of trash in the water. And the amount of plastic waste in particular was just shocking. And we were used to seeing bottles tossed into hedges and things like that. But this was something else. Anyway, that's sort of a bit of my experience. What I'd like to talk about is the entrepreneurial spirit. And, you know, people talk about being an entrepreneur. Now, just because you run a business doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. Don't get sucked into that. There's lots of nonsense out there, right? But that entrepreneurial spirit can be used as a basis to help grow your business, and it's following some principles. So there's a lot of gurus out there who will tell you a lot of nonsense and charge you lots of money and things like that. Just do not do it. Avoid it. There's lots of free stuff out where you can learn how to sell, how to present, and all the rest of it. So starting your own business, you know, does give you some freedom. Okay, I'm not saying this is for everybody. As you know, get a career, work with a company for a few years, and then decide if it's for you. But it gives you freedom. It gives you the ability to make decisions. But you know, in order to do that, you need a team behind you. And I think one of the key things that I've seen over the years is the successful companies are the ones where you have a proper team in place. If you have one founder, normally, you know, 20% of the time it's successful. If you have two founders or more, then the success rate goes up to about 45, 47%. And I think it's important to have a team, have somebody in the team who has complementary skills to you. Somebody's going to be good at finance, somebody's going to be good at manufacture, somebody's going to be good at technology. Use those people as part of that core decision-making team. Do not make the decisions on your own. Passion, right? One of the key things that you need is passion. Do you love what you do? If you don't, then don't do it. Just get a regular job. If you want to go alone and take this project and expand and grow that business as a business, or as a whether it's a charitable project or whatever you're going to do, but you've got to have passion, and that's really, really key. So let me just move on. So I said about a team, you know, we can't do everything, right? We need somebody to second guess us, to give us that sanity check, to ensure that that you're not making a mistake moving forward. And also, you know, in a democratic organization, if everybody's on board, then you've got full support as well. But more importantly, you need to build alliances, not just in the company, but outside of the company. So, you know, find organizations or other small startups or businesses that have the same customer base as you, or the same ethos, or complement you, that you could team together. You could save money on marketing and advertising and events, and maybe have a stand together at a small event, whether it's a craft fair, whether it's a technology fair, wherever. Hopefully in the future we will return to physical events. But it's important that you do that, and a team is worth so much more. You know, I always say the power of 2 equals 3, you know, and you get a lot more for your money. So one of the key things, and this was touched on by Wendy earlier on, LinkedIn. Now, I'm a massive advocate. I've been on LinkedIn probably since about 2003 or 4. And, you know, what it does allow you to do is create your persona. And, you know, if you take on LinkedIn, and hopefully we'll do a poll shortly, we'll find out how many of you have it currently. But LinkedIn will give you that professional persona out in the marketplace. Forget Facebook and Instagram, etc., and certainly Tinder, as we see from our little doggy friend here. You know, LinkedIn is where you are going to progress in your life, and put your CV on there. You know, LinkedIn will give you opportunities outside your current countries. You can research. It's just an amazing tool, and it's free. Okay, there's paid versions as well, but for what you'd be interested in, it's free. You can set up blogs, articles. You could really shine and show your wares and your skill set on LinkedIn. So see it as a platform to do that. Plus, you can keep track of your fellow students, the ones who can be bothered to sign up and stuff. But I promise you one thing, you know, if you make it work for you, you will be on your way to success. So let me just move on. So once you've got your LinkedIn set up, you need a website. And so there's plenty of free tools out there, but get a showcase of your projects, your technology, your art, whatever you may have. Put that on a website. It's a natural progression from LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you have the option to have a website link. Use it and set yourself up a professional looking website. You can do it yourself. There's plenty of tools like Wix and other technologies around, and you know, it gives you that forum to really display your wares. Once you've got a website, you need to tell people that you're there. It's no point in opening a store and only have people who walk past your shop front coming in. You need to tell people. So search engine optimization, you can Google it, okay? But in a nutshell, this allows you to use particular keywords for people to find you, and it builds trust within the internet community. It makes you look more professional. It allows people who are searching for you to find you. You can do paid search. Paid searches can be very expensive. SEO is what we call organic, and that means that you're not paying for each person that's coming to your site, whereas with PPC, pay per click, you do. So it's a really good thing to do. So once you get a website up, once you have something that you want to tell the world about or sell or whatever it's going to be, what a service may be, tell the world about it. Use SEO. And no doubt many of you will have experience of this within university anyway. Key, learn to present, learn to stand in front of a camera, an audience, and tell them what you do, and do it with confidence. Record yourself and review it and look where you got things wrong, and, you know, was there enough eye contact or whatever. Watch professionals do this, and not so professionals. Hopefully you've all heard of Dragon's Den, otherwise known as Lion's Den, I think in Finland, and Shark Tank in Australia, in the US, but it's in around about 30 different countries in under different names. And it's about budding entrepreneurs pitching to investors to get some investment from them. And it's a tremendous show, and you'll see how not to do it and how to do it. And it's a great thing. Look on YouTube, plenty of self-help videos, but ignore the gurus. Anybody that says, who has a Ferrari in the background and is charging, you know, $1,500 to do a training course, ignore, because if they were that successful, they wouldn't be touting for training courses. Okay, they'd be sitting on a yacht and enjoying life. Set up a Zoom studio at home. Zoom's free. All you need is a webcam. I'd say get a ring light. It's a bit of lighting so it looks much better and clearer. And a green screen. Now, if you can see behind me, I've got a green screen behind me right now, and that gives you the ability to make your company, your presentation look far more effective and professional. Do some vlogging, and you know, record yourself, and just keep on practicing. You know, almost done. So, quick thing about STEM. Why STEM is cool. So one of the things that I haven't actually mentioned to any of the team is I build robots as a hobby, and I haven't done much for a while, but we've got an R2-D2 that I made a few years ago, and if you look to the bottom left of the screen, you'll see that that's Oliver Steeples, who built R2-D2 for The Force Awakens. And in the bottom middle, I'm in a book of people who build robots. The guy on the right is the guy who designed BB-8 for The Force Awakens as well. So that's something which I've done as a more of a hobby level. But many of you will probably know about maker spaces. Maker spaces are places where you can go in a community, utilize their tools, their 3D printers, their machine tools, you name it. Those are fantastic. For a small subscription cost, you can have a full workshop at your disposal. Please use them. And finally, a call to action. join LinkedIn. That's the first one. Okay, make sure you join LinkedIn. Add your CV or resume onto LinkedIn. Research your industry. Connect with like-minded contacts. Follow and connect with influencers and people that could benefit you moving forward. Join the relevant groups and be inspired and inspire others to do the same. And then cherry pick the best advice and use it as your own. And execute and stick to the plan. Take action. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for another great presentation there. I'm sure
hopefully I was in within 10 minutes, but
I'm sure that's given our participants, the people watching, some great ideas. So thank you. I'd now like to just move on, and we'll just do this now. We have had a couple of questions in. So we have had a question about placements and organisations that offer work placements. And if I could just turn to you, Wendy, and just say, if students are not in the UK, where you advise that they might look for those placements?
Yeah, definitely. So absolutely use the career service in your own institution. In terms of the job boards that are there, in our institution, we have an internal recruiter called Unitemp. So they also have paid work. So potentially you may have a recruiter within in-house in your university. But we also on our placements program, a lot of our students studies a wonderfully international university, and a lot of our students haven't traveled yet because of everything going on with the pandemic, but we're still working to try and give them work experience at UK-based employers as well. So that's always that's something that we're working with as well. And we also advertise on our platform for roles that are also based internationally. So, you know, if students are based internationally, they can avail of those opportunities as well.
Thank you. And if I can just ask you, Mhairi, about because see, you've got an international element to your organisation. So would that be, that is open to globally to anybody, isn't it, to join?
Yeah. Anybody globally.
Fabulous. So there's a couple of ideas. We are also, as an organisation, open to anybody joining us as one of our STEM ambassadors. So please do get in touch with us as well. So I hope that answered that one question that came up for the panel. If anyone's got any more, if you can quickly type in now. I'm not seeing anything. So what I am going to do now is to hand over to a great friend of BIEA's. He's been a great help to us all over the summer and previously as well. And he was also the lead judge on the competition. So this is where it gets exciting. So if I can hand over to Professor Rick Chandler. He's the chairman of the Communications Management Association. And as I said, he was the lead judge, and he's going to talk about the entries that we had. So thank you, Rick.
Hello. While I try and share my presentation here, which was working earlier, I've got two screens here, and I'm looking. Can you see that? Yeah, that's fine. Brilliant advice from all the three speakers. I've got a background in aerospace engineering initially, moving on to telecommunications, so that gave me some skills I needed to look at some of the fantastic work you were doing. A lot of the advice you're already following anyway. The challenge you set us was huge because you gave some great projects. I'd just like to say, I mean, referring to LinkedIn, I was one of the early starter users like Andy. I had a rule back in those days that I would only accept somebody onto LinkedIn that I already knew or had been introduced and whatever, because everybody was saying, I've got 1,000 contacts, you must connect me. So I say, well, why? One other bit of advice is if you do approach, and I'm quite happy to accept, and I'm sure Andy and the others are, approaches, say why. Don't just click a connect thing. Say why. and make sure your details are up and ready, because there's a huge opportunity there, and I think we should go for it. And I think I haven't put my contact details on here, but I'm sure that Denise will be able to share that.
And make sure you mention BIEA as well.
That's right. And one other thing, while I'm talking about the other panelists, Mhairi had a lot of numbers along the top of her presentation, which were United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. One of the logos that she had in her presentation was a thing like this. I don't know if you can see it. It's a badge. The United Nations, wherever you are in the world, is also providing support, resources, etc., through your governments and whatever. So as well as all the other areas for support, you might find some. I'm going to come on to the categories of the degrees, the awards and whatever. And some of those have a huge local, political or economic value, and I think that it's worth following up and finding. But certainly, you really set us a challenge. You know, you were all stars. I mean, you actually came up with a huge set of great projects. In going through them, we judged that they fell into probably 4 different categories. So I'm going to go through those categories now, and you might find where we think you fit. The first one was actually collection of large plastic waste items, like in Andy's slide there, from rivers, terrestrial, and other locations. The offerings were primarily amphibious vehicles or a host vehicle with smaller collecting vehicles, etc. The ability to recognize and collect plastic was supported by such things as AI, GPS systems, and whatever. Huge understanding of technology, and gave some very good projects. Another category was basically the better sorting and categorizing and processing of waste in a consumer and city environment. We had some good ideas about smart city technologies, upgrading consumer collection points, educating the consumers to go out and use the recycling correctly. I think a large part of the issue is educating people to dispose of their waste in the first place. This also, as I said, in some of the projects, needed some political understanding and support, how you could motivate your local town, your local government, your regional government, or even your national government to support these things. So I think that as well as the technology in the STEM, maybe political science is a science, but it was very interesting to see some of these projects. Quite a lot of the projects were using but basically replacing plastic in normal use, such as bottles. I've got a recycled plastic cup here, made from a wood waste product locally in England, using local organic waste, agricultural waste, or in fact growing crops especially for the region, which are particularly suitable to your climate, to process into goods and things which can be used instead of plastic. We saw some interesting projects and some crops I've never heard of in the world before being used in a proper way in the local economy, which gave farmers an ability to produce something which would benefit locally, which they might not be able to market globally. So there was some interesting input there. And the other category was about microplastics, these tiny, almost molecular size waste plastics that have over the years been the result of the breakdown of larger pieces of plastic, or in fact quite a large a lot of these are plastic inclusions in things like cosmetics and food products to boost their use in the cosmetic industries, etc. To do that. So I think that we had a challenge. One of the biggest challenges was whether we could find an overall winner, because they're all so good in their particular categories. But we did manage to do that. So what I'd like to do now is I think head back to Denise to run through the winners list and whatever. And as I said, if you want to go follow me up, I'll make sure my contact details are available. But, I was impressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Now going to go on to the exciting part. Rick and I are going to try and do a double-hander here, like the Oscars. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Before we go on to the category winners and the main winner, I'd just like to say, obviously, again, another really big thank you to Professor Rick, who led the judges. Also to Dr. Alex Holmes, who is our head of STEM here at BIEA. Alex has a science background, so she was also a judge. And also to Phil Travis. And Phil is an experienced engineer with extensive international work. So he came from that background. So I think we got a good spread to have a look at the judges, and there was consensus. So I think we can say that we've got to the right decision, Rick. So here we go. So the first award, I think, Rick, you're going to read that bit out.
Well, can you go down? I mean, it's I Recycle, Mhairi Gital from Kenya.
Fabulous. I don't think Maria is with us today, but congratulations anyway, Maria. The next award is for the Outstanding Achievement in Engineering.
Yeah, this was Amphibious Waste Removal Device, AWRD1, from Daniel Oakley. Well done, Daniel. Professional level of presentation there, like a professional engineer. Yeah.
I think Daniel is with us today as well. So congratulations, Daniel. Congratulations. The next category was the innovation category. And this was for something that the judges felt was really would have some impact and was also something that could be done. So, and the winner is?
Well, this was Team Nilad Pad in Indonesia. One of the interesting things they actually had produced a biodegradable product, and it actually had examples of how they would degrade over a period of time. So they not only made the product from regenerable materials, but they'd actually tested the way that it was biodegradable, which was quite good.
Fantastic, yeah.
Are they on with, no.
We're now on to the runner-up, and the overall runner-up is
WWTP, War Waged Against Troublesome Pollution, from Bangladesh. These were again recycling or extracting microplastics from wastewater projects, and then using the sludge to generate energy, and the microplastics to be recycled into other plastic products. Very interesting project.
And I know that team are with us today, so thank you very much. And I have to say that I will tell you as well that it was a very close call, your team and the winners. So congratulations, team.
Well done, guys.
CP.
And
and now
the
for
overall
the
winner,
prize winner.
Drum roll.
drum roll, I can't do a drum roll, was Team Astin, the sea salt microplastic purifying machine from Indonesia. Vast amounts of Indonesian salt is produced from or extracted from seawater, and a huge amount of that sea salt, which is used in the food chain, contained microplastics. They've developed a process and tested the machine to actually extract it and then recycle the extracted machine back into the environment. So it's got a double benefit there, and I think it was a very beneficial project, and I think other countries in the world that are producing salt from seawater could probably learn from that as well. Well done. Well done.
Well done, guys.
Congratulations, guys. Well done. Well done. So I think you can see there that we had quite a range of projects, and it was really hard for the judges. It was good to see as well the international element. So we did have somebody from, and I think, I'll just go back a slide. So one of the team, but not one of the winners. I just saw somebody enter the team. It's not one of the winners, so all right. And we did have a range. And one of the things that I think that the judges and also the presenters who are here today, who also did look at the competition finalists, was that you've got some great ideas there, guys, and there will be people who will be interested in helping you take those projects forward. So please take up Andy's advice about how you can do that. We also have some links to share about some funding that is about to develop the research into those, which we will also be sharing with you afterwards. So please, fantastic ideas, and let's see if we can get one of those launched and off the ground.
Yeah, and guys as well, my LinkedIn details will be shared later on, but for the people who've qualified and runners up, drop me a LinkedIn and I'll share your project as well with my my whole network, and which is extensive, so you'll get some free advertising as well for what you've done.
Yeah, I'll endorse that too. I mean, I work with a lot of the startup community in London, mainly through UCL and their accelerator, but quite a lot of the other accelerators. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to share what you've done in other countries and whatever through these channels. It's brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, really good.
Thank you. Just to kind of finish off today, just thank everybody, including the presenters. Really informative, insightful presentations that I'm sure all our participants will have enjoyed. We do now have open registration for next year's competition. We'll be announcing the theme shortly, but just to give a hint, we will be carrying on with our plastic pollution theme, so it will be around that. I don't think we'll be lucky enough to get the Duchess of Cornwall to visit us again, not now, but that was exciting to have us with our well. So we'll be announcing the actual competition, but you can go online now and register to make sure that you're with it. And we still would like to keep in touch with you. We'll be obviously we've got a new theme, we've got some new training. We'll be hoping to hold a series of webinars to share information with you around the things that are dear to BIEA's heart, and also to all of you, because the competition and the schools competition this year, we had thousands, and that's the other thing, to put it into context for you guys who are here today, we had thousands of entries from all around the world. We hit every single continent, so that we know that these are topics, as Mhairi spoke about as well, that young people are really engaged with, and they want to not only to discuss and talk about these topics, but try to find solutions for them as well. So that's where we're all about. And yeah, thank you, and we'll hope to see you all again soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Go to open for an applause.
Well done.
Yes. Open for applause. Yes.
Right. Is everybody open? I can see too many mutes on screen. Please open your mics and
unmute, please. Let's have a round of applause for everybody.
Big round of applause. Come on, everybody.
Well done, everybody.